whether they are at the early childhood level, primary or tertiary. I believe if we take any of our students and put them anywhere, they're going to do well. She's from Manning's, and one past student of Manning's is now at a college in Pennsylvania. And he aced the thing to the extent that the other students are challenged and they're telling him that he's making them uncomfortable and all that. This is the type of system we're talking about, the foundation that is laid here in Jamaica.
Hello, Throppers, and welcome back to another video podcast episode. And if this is your first time visiting, a special welcome to you. My name is Winthrop Wellington, and I am the host of On Deck with Throp, where we have meaningful conversations with people from all over the world, all about Jamaica. And today we have a special video podcast that comes straight from my Throp-X 2022 Jamaica Investment Conference. And today we're going to be talking about education in Jamaica. And I know there are a lot of young families out there that are wondering what it is like to send your child to school here in Jamaica and what the education is like. And for that, we have two expert panelists in senior teacher Miss Jean P. Brown and also Jessica Davidson, and they give us real insight into what the education system is like here in Jamaica, what the curriculum is like, and they do a great job of getting into the detail and even the social aspects of that. And if you're at all interested in this and you're all understanding what it is like, this is the video for you. And as a quick reminder, I want to let you all know that tickets for Throp-X 2023 are for sale on our website, thropx.com. And it's going to be bigger and it's going to be better than it was last year. We actually extended it by 2 days because of how popular it was last year. And we are excited to welcome you. And hopefully you'll be able to join us this year because we are having a lot of the experts that we had last year come back, as well as new experts by getting a lot of the feedback and acting on a lot of the feedback from last year's conference. And we're trying to just deliver as much value as humanly possible for this upcoming investment conference. With no further ado, please enjoy this panel discussion on the education here in modern day Jamaica.
If you were to look at a child that went through the Jamaican primary and secondary education curriculum, where do they rank in terms of employability, marketability, in world standards? 1 to 10. Jessica?
All right. Hello. Good morning. It's absolutely wonderful to be here and to be a panelist here this morning. And I thank you for that warm introduction. Now, if I'm to rank from 1 to 10, Jamaican students, I would put it largely at an 8. When we're talking about primary school students coming through the elementary school, because first of all, there is somewhat, it's being professionalized now, more formalized, the early entrance of students into the education system. That's elementary about 3 to 5, and then primary school, we're having about 6 to 12, 13 about, and then 13 to 16, 17, 18 in some respects, and the student graduates. But what makes our students competitive is the fact that it's a global syllabus, so our students are able to operate as global citizens rather than just Jamaican citizens or Caribbean citizens. So you can at least plug our students from Jamaica and place them anywhere, and they're able to efficiently adapt and become students and employees and employers who are able to give monumental contributions wherever they go.
I joined my colleague here in ranking us between 8 and 8.5, between 8 and 9. The reason is, if you just use a typical example of
A student who had passed through the primary education system, you place that child in a US system, that child aced the system because of the foundation that has been laid in our students. Then, in recent times, when we have been now focusing on the 21st century skills, so at the primary level, our students are exposed to collaboration, critical thinking, creativity, and communication.
because the aim of this new national standards curriculum that the government had put in place in recent times, I think we started that new curriculum in 2017.
Before we introduced PEP?
Right.
Or in the same time?
Just run about the same time that we introduced the PEP. So the aim was to have every student in Jamaica, whether they are at the early childhood level, primary or tertiary, should they be taken from Jamaica and placed in another country, they would line up with whatever is happening in that country. And, it has been working well, has been challenging, because whenever you have a change in the curriculum, then there's going to be resistance. Teachers are always used to the old curriculum, so they want to continue because they know the content, they know what they have been doing over the years. So now you are looking at a new thing, and especially since the new curriculum is IT based. So we're doing quite a lot of information technology and that kind of stuff. So I believe if we take any of our students and put them anywhere, they're going to do well. We have had students, she's from Manning's, and one past student of Manning's, I think 2 years ago, their head boy is now at a college in Pennsylvania. And he aced the thing to the extent that the other students are challenged, and they're telling him that he's making them uncomfortable and all that. This is the type of system we're talking about, the foundation that is laid here in Jamaica.
Well, we know when it comes to doing from the days of common entrance,
yes,
then the days of GSAT,
yes,
and now PEP, it's as if the parents are doing the exams with the children. They're so involved in this process. But then when we go to what I would have called big school, you go to high school now. In Jamaica, we use the CXE curriculum, so we're doing CSEC and then CAPE. How does that measure up with like SAT and GCE programs?
High school.
All right. Am I getting good sound? Yes?
Yeah.
Awesome. So, CSEC and CAPE, these are advanced subjects, and it measures up well, because with SATs, you find that it focuses mainly on math and English for the SATs. But when we're talking about CSEC, again, talking about school, we venture into many different disciplines. We do have math, we have English, we have social studies, bio, human and social bio. Biology, everyone to say.
Go ahead, Sasha.
Human and social bio. I was talking about physics, chemistry. So there is that whole field that gives us a greater scope. But when you get to CAPE now, this is Caribbean Advanced Proficiency, it takes it a step up and gets them to pre-university level, which lays a stronger foundation. So when they get into community colleges, and even before that, at the sixth form level is where they would sit the CAPE examination, community college, University of the West Indies, UTech, all of that, they are able to better understand, grasp the material, and they are leaps and bounds ahead. Because many of our students can transition with CSEC passes, which is done at what we call grade 11 or fifth form, so they're about 16, transition into many tertiary level institutions in Canada, and somewhat they're even ready to sit the SATs in the United States. So again, it makes them flexible. So the difficulty is there, but also what merits the improvement of our students is the scope. It's wide ranging, and so they're able to transition into international schools even all over the world.
All right. Now let's take a look at some of the schools that we've had. There was a time when we had a lot of technical schools that focused on the trades and those types of skills. Recently, the Prime Minister also announced that he's going to want to place a focus on STEAM, so science,
Technology, engineering, and mathematics, yes.
Right, the arts and mathematics, right? Do you think we need these kinds of specialized schools? How do you weigh in on that?
I think we definitely do. Because if we are now operating in a technical world and in a world where you are operating with schools that are not even enclosed in the four walls. We've just gone through, or we're currently still in the pandemic, And we all know what transpired in 2020, 2021 when all schools internationally were placed online. So people can stay online and create their own businesses. They stay in their own homes and conduct school. They conduct all types of sessions. So it is of essence that we align with what is happening in the world. So if we're now talking about 21st century learning, then it means that STEM, which is part of it, and STEAM are of very, very important, because you do not want to have a curriculum where you are behind in any way. We constantly look at the education system in Norway. We look at the education system in Singapore, and we compare ourselves with it. And incidentally, the education system in Singapore was modeled off the Jamaican education system. Actually, when Mr. Manley was Prime Minister, the Singaporean government came here and saw what we were doing back then. They went back to Singapore and they fine-tuned that. And now we have to be going to Singapore, because actually when we did the new curriculum, we sent a team to Singapore to study their education system and to see the similarities and differences and what we can and could adopt. So it is really important that we do not go below the standard that is there at the global level. So I think STEM and STEAM are crucial.
Do you agree?
I agree to a certain extent, because setting up these institutions like it's almost separate from the educational institutions like the schools. I would push for more. Right now I'm in a wait and see mode, and to see how it will work out, because I think there would be a greater need for more structure and connectivity with those kind of STEAM centers or STEAM academies and the schools that are already established. I would rather to see like these STEM centers be established within the schools.
The current schools.
Yes, the current schools that exist. And if there cannot be a STEM center or a STEM center, a STEM program, and build from there, generate the hubs within the schools themselves. I get where we can, of course, if this is a STEM academy and this is a building, if there's an institution set up for this, I get where we can lay the foundation for connectivity and it serves as a hub and it connects to other schools and learning institutions around. But for right now, I would want us to see how best we can incorporate these STEAM centers or STEM academies. Right now, we spoke about, you said Manning's High School. The past students of Manning School will come at you. There's no hiding name, but Manning School has a STEM academy there, or we're seeking to build that. So there is infrastructure in place. We're seeking extra funding, but where it is, we can definitely incorporate STEAM. And of course, all those subject areas, that discipline is necessary for any student, for critical thinking, development of scientific thought and technology and moving forward. That is crucial in any education system in the 21st century. But I want it more to be infused in the institutions that we already have. Training is necessary for the staff in the schools. We're talking about the teachers, the administrators. What is the program? How do we use these programs to meet the needs of the students that are presently in those institutions? Because whether we want to believe it or not, the academic aptitude is not quite straight across the board.
Correct.
And so we need to meet the students where they are. So if these centers are within the confines of the school, I believe it would serve them better. But I'm not discounting what we have now. I'm in wait and see mode.
Fair enough.
I was looking at it from the perspective of the primary education, because I'm a primary educator. My colleague is a high school secondary educator. So what is happening at the primary level, especially with the introduction of the national standards curriculum, is that all of these skills are being taught. The curriculum went through rigorous training with teachers across the island. From 2017, they have gone all over and they have done some intensive training with teachers to ensure that the STEM approach is being infused at the primary level. So
But I think you're probably saying the same point, because as opposed to building a whole new building and new
that's
type
what I'm
of
saying.
school,
That's
to
because
infuse it.
what is
from the little
happening?
ones coming right up.
Because what is happening now is that you have structured STEM centers at the high school level. But from the primary level, we're infusing.
You mentioned earlier what was happening in the pandemic, and we know a lot of people in the diaspora, they were sending tablets, sending devices, raising funds to help their alma maters, that sort of thing, because the connectivity and our telecommunications companies going to have work to do. There's some areas that still don't have, the schools don't have internet connectivity, and it's a struggle. So when students went home, if they didn't have a tablet or they didn't have internet, they were being left behind. How is your school doing and the schools in your community doing with that?
Before I answer that question, I can tell you something that the ministry did. For areas where there weren't any internet connectivity, they set up mobile units to go in. Not all the areas.
Not all the areas.
Because you couldn't reach all of them. But they also did a very innovative thing. They did radio lessons. So we taught the lessons as if the class was in front of us. And for me, I was one of the presenters of radio. It was pretty exciting. And I'm talking to children and I'm saying, I'm seeing you over there. And I know you're thinking, awesome, you're doing very well. And so we have gotten a lot of feedback from those individuals in some remote areas who only had radio. And they would sit down and would be writing. There was a teacher, of course, who many persons learned of, who started taking school into the sidewalk, on the sidewalk, setting up work classes.
Into the communities.
Right, because there weren't any connectivity. We still don't have the type of connectivity that we need. And so it was challenging on, the part of the teachers, because you are expected to make incremental movements to ensure that students are learning. And the students were not able to connect to anything. And so when you were to evaluate, that was challenging. And so when the students got back to school face-to-face, we recognized that there was a vast chasm, as it were, in terms of learning. So in Negril, it was much better than in many areas, because the system with Flow and one-on-one and all of them that we use, they have been good. Digicel and all of that. So we're still having some challenges because teachers are doing both face-to-face. It's a hybrid approach that we're still using. And internet connectivity is up, down, up, down, you're on, you're off. So you have to say, just be patient, wait. When you reconnect, we continue, that sort of stuff.
And to add to you, so yes, there was radio. There were also some lessons done on TV. I saw some teachers also printing.
Yes, we did a lot of printing.
And they would have allowed the parents to come and collect the stack for the week.
Yes.
And you pretty much drop it back off when the child is finished. So they were being very creative.
Right in the Negril District Association here, we had a principal who actually jumped on bike taxis
and was delivered to the
delivered the work to the students. And that was, teachers who went beyond to ensure that their students were still engaged and learning was taking place.
So that's for the little ones. What was happening at your high school, for example?
Engagement was the order of the day. But with COVID came a different level of innovation and different level of innovation for the Ministry of Education. My colleague here, Jean, spoke about radio, television, and us as teachers know, how is it that you have a classroom and you normally have your students right there and then all of a sudden, they're no longer there. And now you're going to see, instead of seeing these students, we're having these little square boxes.
Zoom.
I was like, is it JD? Who is that? Are you there? So difficulty bred creativity and innovation. And how is it that we connected with these students and we did have a lot of trouble? We did have many problems getting the tablets in, and then they have the tablets. And then, okay, Do tablets work 100%? The verdict is still out for me right there, because every student needs a laptop. Tablet will only serve you for, they can barely do anything, and then they're supposed to answer a question and they type. Well, our students are much better than me, but I would rather them have a laptop. But for the students we were able to connect with, as a teacher, I was like, okay, I have to go in now and find online classes, online lesson plans. How does it translate? This is not working. I'm switching up. I did things where I did my own little survey, and like, who has connectivity? Who is using a phone? Who is using a laptop? Who is using a tablet? And it seems very small, but it impacts on how that student is able to engage and how well they are able to grasp the concept that you're giving. Are they able to log on? And then this is where I saw many Jamaicans, especially in the diaspora, rose to the occasion and like, okay, we need to get some stuff back into Jamaica. This is my school. This is my alma mater. All right, I have $50. Let's go to Costco and bulks. Sent it down, and we were able to get those. The private sector responded. But my school, say, was 80% of the students were able to log on. But I know of other institutions where the figures were like 10, 15, 20. And then my colleague here spoke of that chasm when they returned. And another crucial point that was left out, that we look at the academic part, but the social component that a school plays, I think some of us may take that for granted. When a child doesn't have lunch money and has a friend and said, okay, let's buy lunch for you and me, that the sharing component, and it teaches a child to be empathetic, how to behave, how to sit, how to stand, the volume at which you're to speak, what is viewed as aggressive, that socialization component, that chasm was there too. So when they return, and we're seeing little pockets of it right now, when we see that this little upsurge of violence was always there in the school system, but was never so much. But it's for the students coming back now, learning to relate a little bit more and moving ahead. So the high schools, some of them were able to come back, but we lost many, and we are still losing some because not all came back. And we had to go literally searching in communities. I mean,
where
I
is John Brown?
Where is he? And I tell you that John Brown is on a truck working.
Or construction.
To send Jamie Brown to primary school, no joke. John Brown from high school is on a truck working to send Mary Jane to school, his little brother, little sister, or so they can have that connectivity to buy credit, to connect. And so that was a disruption there. And sometimes you're able to catch John Brown and sometimes you're just not. But we continue to push as educators as best as we possibly can.
You mentioned something a while ago, the violence. So we're seeing the headlines. A lot of people in the diaspora are seeing what is pushed out in the media, and we're very concerned. Is it that the children are just mimicking what's happening all around them in society, or is it that our educators are so tired, their energy is just lapsed, and the children are just acting out of control?
Both. Because we cannot take for granted what our society is showing us. Because the uptick is not only in the school, the uptick is in society. The uptick is in the rural areas that we thought peaceful, tranquil, and then it's all over. And then these are the students, those are parents, those are guardians that send these students out to us. And sometimes it's just that I am not able to express myself to say, I do not like it, don't do that. It's as simple as that. That discussion, that one sentence has not been taught, has not been learned how to receive. And so it just gets out of control. And our educators too are tired.
Burnt out.
We are tired from many things. Many things. The size of the classroom, the low pay, the negotiations, blah, 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 blee, blee, blee. We're there. But for the most part, we understand. And as an educator with a passion for education and with a passion for young people, we see beyond that. But there are some times where you cannot pour from an empty cup. And so the educators begin to get overwhelmed. And so certain little things fall by the wayside, certain areas of discipline, and then it morphs into something bigger. And then there is that level of fear too. If I intervene, with this child, there is going to be the parent coming with machete, with board, there are certain little things like that, but we continue to push on, but it's both, and there are other factors that continue. But just like how those factors are coming, we need to be as resilient. Because as a society, the parents who know that these things are happening need to be as resilient, need to be as responsive. Educators, administrators, the neighbor need to push back and reclaim not only our children, but reclaim our society.
All hands on deck.
Country, yeah. I wanted to bring a new perspective to what was happening in the pandemic. There's an organization that is associated with Travelers Beach Resort. It's called NEET, Negril Education Environment Trust, which was started by Mr. Winston Wellington. Now, when the NEET family saw what was happening in the pandemic, that it was really overwhelming, because you would have a parent who is working, as you know, Negril is predominantly tourism. The parent is working, so the only device in the home is gone to work. Right. The teacher is teaching, and they need that phone to use. So when the parent gets back in the evening, that's when she's checking the phone for the work that the teacher sent and all of that. So there were so many who they couldn't afford a second device, and some homes didn't have any at all. So what Travelers did, they set up a resource center, fully computerized, and invited members of the public and the Travelers family to come on in. So the students came in the day, and they used the computers to get online. But prior to the pandemic, NEET was always giving computers to students, long way down in 2013. So those students who had gone through the NEET training program had no challenge when it comes to using the device, because they had it already in their homes. Parents were trained to use it, and they were trained to use it. But in the resort center, I saw from two perspectives what was going on, which was why when the students got back to face, some were really at sea in terms of how they were going to perform. So they would come in the mornings, those who had a device, and we do our devotions and had everything ready, and they logged in. The school is doing a devotion. They minimize their classroom window, and then they go on to a game, and they're doing something else. So when teachers are teaching and you think it's peace and safety and students are getting it, they just minimize the window and they're doing all kind of stuff. So I was there as the center manager. I had to be going around ensuring that. And when I saw certain things now, I would call the teacher, because I had direct line to all the schools from where the students came, and say, okay, John Brown is not focused. So you need to pull him out in your Zoom class, put him in a waiting room and deal with him individually. And any concept or idea or challenge that they had, I would be there to assist them. Other teachers would also come to the center because they didn't have any good bandwidth, and so they came and conducted their classes from there. So kudos to NEET at Travelers.
Another thing we want to talk about, which also makes headlines, is our grooming policy and locking out students if the pants is too tight, if he took it to the tailor, if the dress is too this, if the hair is too that. The Education Act, as well as the grooming policy, we are sick and tired of every September not knowing, okay, is the Ministry of Education in charge of telling schools, or does the schools tell the ministry what they're doing? What's happening there?
The minister just recently said that they're not telling the schools what to do in terms of their uniform policies. They just want to ensure they're working with the schools, and whatever the schools are saying, technically they will endorse that. I think we need a national policy, because I think some of the things, I make reference to Manning's. Manning's has never changed the length of their uniforms, and I don't see them having any challenge. Other schools in Westmoreland have gone ahead and across the island and given their students some what the parents call maxes to wear, I've seen students holding
To the ground.
holding up their uniforms.
There's a school that has a skirt for the ladies, and it pretty much, the girl's skirt was
almost
2
hitting the
inches
ground.
above her socks or something, but it's long. It's not like, it's just not on the ground. And they sent her home.
Yeah.
And it's so ridiculous.
It is ridiculous. The children are walking, holding up their dresses so that they don't fall, so that the rain, when it rains, their tunic hem doesn't get wet and things like that. I think we need to, whatever we do in terms of a dress policy, it should be reasonable, make sense, and ensure that the students are comfortable.
Reasonable, makes sense, children comfortable. I think that is definitely.
All right. Now, with the grooming policy, so the government, the Ministry of Education provides guidelines, but the Ministry of Education cannot provide a guideline that says for your here, that here, that here. So they cannot be, they cannot make a rule, so to speak. It's difficult. They can, but it's going to be difficult because different spaces will call for different things. So different schools, different communities, there are different ways and customary ways of doing different things. So it's hard for the ministry to say, okay, this is the rule, and it must be this inches for everybody and all across the board. So I think this is why the Ministry of Education just said, okay, we have guidelines, and then the schools are to use these guidelines to formulate their own policy. Now, a school does not wake up and formulate a policy like that. There has to be engagement. And here is where parents, guardians, and community members and the boards come into play. What are the policies? Is this policy reflective of the values and the attitudes of the community that's being served, or the space or the students being served? So come in and have a conversation. So right now, if the school has a lockout policy for this length, who is it that is in place to say, no, that cannot be? Because if the student cannot speak for him or herself or on that matter, where is the parent? Where is the guardian? Where is the PTA? I'm thinking there are many times that parents are just saying, okay, it's school, it's school, it's school, it's school. There is some shirking of responsibility, and it manifests into grooming. No, so the ministry, then we're saying then it's the Ministry of Education. Ministry of Education coming to make the decision. Ministry of Education cannot make the decision for every child at every given moment, for every school. It can only provide guidelines. We are a society, and a group. I see Aman's face, but I have to say it because I see Aman's face, and I'm saying that Ministry of Education cannot do all these things, or parents or society or communities. There are board members. Hold your board members accountable. There are PTA presidents. Hold them accountable. You have a principal. Hold them accountable. Go into your school and say, this is not practical. It does not make sense. My child is not comfortable. Let us sit down at the table and come up with a policy for this school that makes sense, that is practical, and my child is comfortable.
I agree in terms of taking a collective approach.
Locking out, if we're going to say, that is, no. This cannot be. If there's a breach, this cannot be. Then what is it that we're going to say? And for many schools, I'm going to go on defensive here. For many schools, they don't just wake up and lock out a child. A child has been warned. A child has been sent home with a letter, and then this is happening. But on the first day of school, you see this happening, and then it cannot be. But what is the case where the different stakeholders are actually playing their role? We are trying to shirk responsibility, and ministry, tell the schools what to do. Ministry, tell the schools what to do. Ministry, tell the teachers what to do. And in some cases, even if the ministry tries, you have to hold people accountable. So let us be practical. Let us hold ourselves accountable as parents, as persons who are past students, alumni. These are different stakeholders there. So let us sit down at the table and come up with these different policies, whether it's for grooming. Now there's going to be a policy on devotion. How does that go? Who sits down in the room and come up with the policy on devotion for the different schools? Yes, these things can only provide guidelines, but I tell you, you see what is put down in black and white, and when it's ready to manifest in the physical form, it can be something totally different. And we must be able to respond to the differences that appear once that is done.
What I like about that approach, it also shows the conflict resolution that we need our children to see. Where we come to the
Quite
table
so.
and we meet collectively and talk about things before they go black and white. But what I think where we diverge a bit is a school, a regular high school is still accountable to the ministry. The ministry can pull that license or fire that entire board. So technically the ministry does have the power. But politics or politics is sometimes played and they don't want to go into a particular area and tell them what to do. I think the ministry can also step
The ministry can do that, you know. The ministry has the capacity to say, okay, you're not fulfilling your mandate.
Right.
You're not fulfilling your mandate. But say, okay, ministry comes in, you're not fulfilling your mandate in a school with 1,000 students, shut down. What happens next? So we have to bear that in mind. So the conflict resolution is key, and ensuring that the stakeholders play their role, the individuals that are put in place are held accountable. It cannot be a situation where time after time after time is the same school, is the same problem, it's the same thing. Then the ministry is not playing its role in holding these individuals or their administrative staff accountable. But to go in now and play hardball, that is going to be problematic. And I think this is where they're trying to avoid that. Come together as a community, as a space to say, okay, it's not right for persons to get up and take away rights and say, I say you're to do this, so do this. I say you're to do this, do this. Where will the line be drawn? And that is a different conversation between the state and society.
And I think that is one of the approaches that they're actually looking at now. They want to have all hands on board. So it's a collaborative effort. It's not just from hierarchy down, top down. It's not just from the grassroots up, but everybody is going to sit at the table. And so the decision-making process will be a broad-based one where everybody is involved.
In terms of people donating resources to schools, do we have to do it through the ministry or do we have to do it through the Jamaica Education Trust? Or we can actually reach out specifically to Mannings and say, I would like to donate to your resource center. What's that process like?
They're still going to need to go through the ministry because when the items get to customs, if you don't have a Danish shipping, you're going to be in trouble.
That is
quite so.
So the easy way is to really go through the ministry. They have the mechanism in place, and they do not usually give you any problem when they recognize that these are gifts coming in, and you can verify that you're not going to sell them to the students.
So can I say I wanted to specifically go to Mannings?
Yes, you can. Say
yes, you can.
Which school you wanted to go
And you've
to.
seen that happen in recent times?
Most definitely, most definitely.
All the times.
Especially coming from the diaspora international, it's good to go through the trust because it helps with accountability. It's going where it's supposed to go. And as my colleague said, it's not being sold. Persons are not making a profit off these gifts. So yes, you can say, okay, I wanted to come into the country and I wanted to go to Mannings. I wanted to go to Negril All Age. I wanted to go there, and everywhere, wherever it is. But there is a streamlined process, and it also will help the Ministry of Education to account for who has and who does not have, and where the resources can best be allocated. And how is it that we can help to make these connections? Because Cornerstone Jamaica, an organization, a non-profit organization for which I am a partner, has done tremendous work, especially on the COVID. 500 tablets were donated. Our partner schools, 11 partner schools, we got a partnership with Digicel and equipped those schools with internet during the time where students could come on campus and work. And these devices were brought in under that agreement. For Mannings, many past students or alumni coming out of Toronto, coming out of Florida, New York, they sent in devices, and we were able to pass those on to our students. And not only those kind of tablets, but laptops, many students continue to benefit. And right now, many students were able to transition to tertiary level education. So yes, you can come, and we know the rivalry that exists when it comes on to high schools, I think in the States, there's a high rivalry when it gets to colleges. But in Jamaica, it's high school, because later today, I'm actually going to go to a Manning School, a football match where it's going to be at SAB. And they're like, do you have your gears? Do you have ready? And I'm like, ready. I'm watching the time to say, okay, Manning School, we're going for the Costa Cup. And we're proud to say that. And persons are coming out in droves just to say, go Mannings. And soon it's with Froome. Just to say, go Froome. Persons are coming out, same area. So they're like, Miss, it's going to be Derby, meaning it's going to be a big match. So, okay, come out and enjoy. Yeah. So you have those past students. The alumni forces are very great. When you go to Champs, KC, JC, Wolmers, Wolmers won champs, boys won champs when they turned, what was it, 200 or 300? I remember I was there. I've never seen Wolmers won a champs, but for that year, all the stars aligned. Yes. All the stars aligned. And I'm sure it took a lot of planning and a lot of emphasis and work, not only with the administration, but that alumni group coming together as major stakeholders and supporting these institutions. And I would hope that many other institutions get that level of support, because we do need it. The Ministry of Education can't do it alone. The schools can't do it alone. We need that kind of support.
Very, very important, the alumni's presence in their institution. No, and it seems as if Westmoreland has a good thing going. And right there in the Savannah Lamar hub, because Mannings is there, but there's also Godfrey Stewart High that has approximately 5 chapters of their alumni. Just last weekend, FLOBA, which is the Florida Bahamas, had a massive dinner dance. And what happened is that all these funds not only come in to assist with equipment, but they do a breakfast program at the school. So students have no need to say they can't learn because they're hungry, because every single morning breakfast is provided for them as a result of the funds raised with those associations. So we also, as I had mentioned, NEET has a cadre of directors and sponsors and friends of the organization that kept sending down the tablets so that, students were able to be engaged in a very meaningful way. So it is of essence that we give back those members
and
of the
ensure
alumni,
that the support goes where it is needed. Mm-hmm. All right, ladies and gentlemen, at this time I'm going to open the floor to questions that you may have for Jean or Jessica. See?
There's some.
Right, the mic is on this side. So as we wait for the question to be posed. Okay. How many of you went to a high school out here? Raise your hands. Which school you went to, Dennis? Radio. All right. Let me hear. Which school you went to? Manchester High. All right. Next.
Manchester.
Yeah.
Montego Bay High. Beer Technical. Cornwall College. Montego Bay High. St. Mary's High. Calabar. Hold on.
All right, champs.
At which school did you go to, Jessica?
Manning School.
And Jean?
Godfrey Stewart High.
And I'm from town, so I went to Wolmer's Girls.
All right.
All right, ready for the first question. Let's go.
All right. Thank you guys so much for the level of education that you gave us and the knowledge. I know I think it was last year, the Ministry of Education had added 2 additional years onto high school. Mm-hmm. How does that affect what's going on, the curriculum that's going on now, and what exactly does those 2 years carry in the educational system?
Okay, I think I'll take that. So you're referring to the Ministry of Education push for the 6th form pathways. Traditionally, not all schools, not all high schools, secondary institution offered those 2 extra years. And so it will come in different forms. So Manning's did offer that and offer as part of the curriculum, the CAPE curriculum for those 2 extra years, a 6th form program. In year 1, they would do Unit 1 CAPE. In year 2, they do Unit 2 CAPE. If it was a single unit, it depends. Communication Studies is a single unit. Caribbean Studies is a single unit. But these units helps the student transition. Without these CAPE passes, can't attend the University of the West Indies. UTech can, but the student cannot matriculate into the University of the West Indies without CAPE or the equivalent of that. And so it's easier for students to continue. But what happens, many schools do not have the space, do not have the teachers, do not have the resources. So with the 6th form pathways, is the government trying to say, okay, let us try to equip our students a little bit more, keep them in schools for the 2 additional years so that they can get that additional learning and they're able to better matriculate into tertiary level institution. Now with CAPE, it's more of the traditional subject areas, academics, really academics based. But the 6th form pathways can take, it's like the CAP skills program, where it's career advancement, I forget right now, career advancement program, CAP. And this could be in terms of front desk operation. These are different technical skills, floral arrangement, which is in conjunction with TVET. So these are more skill-based areas. So if the student does not want to continue in the traditional academic field, at this point in time, with these 2 6th form pathways, the students are able to get that additional hands-on learning and training, formalized training for those 2 years, either in the technical area or the traditional area that is known. So many schools now are...
Is it mandatory right now in all schools?
It's mandatory. It's a guide. They're trying to make it mandatory because the school has to have the capacity to absorb. Okay. So Manning's 5th form cohort, that's the cohort that will transition into the 6th form pathways, is about, my students are 304. I can say that with definitively because I'm the 5th form year supervisor. 304 students, but our 6th form can only absorb at a time about 90 plus. So our school can only absorb 90 plus, but they will also transition into Froome 6th form. So you'll find that a lot of Manning students transition out of Manning's into Froome 6th form, and also you have the community colleges. So they are able to absorb those numbers from Froome, from Manning's, from Godfrey Stewart, Sav High, those others. So there are different institutions popping up. So where the school cannot do it, there are different institutions out there that can absorb these students. And so there is a strong push, and I'm in total agreement with this push for these 2 additional years, because it will give the students a more solid foundation to continue their education or also become employable at that level.
Globally included.
I love that. Another question came in. Most brain drain development happens between the years of 0 to 5. Are there early childhood programs in communities that are training parents and teachers on how to support their child's development?
I cannot speak definitively about parents, but what I know is the Ministry of Education, since the last 15 to 20 years, has sought drastically to formalize early childhood in Jamaica, noting its fundamental value. Because traditionally, what you would see is like maybe there's a retired teacher, have about 10 students on the veranda and teaching them. So it's like almost their care and not really learning. But you'll have some schools in some communities too, where they're actual schools putting uniform on children and the parents pay these teachers, or sometimes they're not as trained, these individuals who have a level of learning to really teach these young children, small, little. But now it's being very formalized, where every educator in the early childhood sector has to develop their skills. And through NHT, they can gain that level of certification, or if there's a principal, have to go back to school and get their first degree. So it's not a situation where you're out on your face, no, because you're not certified or qualified. There are avenues for these educators to become certified. The spaces in which these students go, these young children go, must be passed because by the Ministry of Education to say, okay, for my child to be here, it must be safe. It must have proper running water, and for your children to be safe. So not so much for the parents. I think that is more of an individualistic thing. And again, all hands on deck. The church play a role. PTA play a role. Us as just individual need to support each other as young parents.
The parents must.
Yes. Actually, parents need to be ready to say, okay, read the book if you have to read the book.
Yes.
Talk to the teacher, have a conversation. My child is doing this. How can I help? How can I assist? When my child comes home and say this, teacher, and some parents are like that, teacher, the boy do this and like, and you sit down and you listen and you have the conversation. It is crucial. So the investment is there, the will is there, is for us to really come on board and have some level of responsibility and accountability for our children. And not only if we are parents alone, but community members. Absolutely. You see the child, struggling, help the little pitty man.
Right, let me just
they're actually
the final word.
Right. There actually are institutions at the early childhood level that have this aspect where parents play their role. They have, I think it's adopted from one of the systems in the United States, where even the homework that goes out, there is a component where parents must be a part. So when it comes back, you see the child's work and you see what the parent has done.
Wow.
So we have some of that going on.
One whole day of work and then after the work.
I tell you something, if I could jump in here.
That is going on. We saw a lot of it during the pandemic when they didn't realize how serious teaching was. And then they had to take on the role of teachers. And it was afterwards they
Every
really
teacher got nice teachers they give.
Yeah, they took their hats off to the educators. So that is coming on. Some schools are already implementing that. And it gives the whole socialization aspect that was mentioned. It causes the parent and child to get closer.
Yes.
It causes the parent to have more interest in what is happening in school. And it causes the parent to see where his or her child is faltering or not, stepping up to the plate. And so it develops a better relationship with parent-teacher than we had before. I see, I'm coming back to the NEET because it's an education environment trust. When right now we have a set of students and their parents being trained. They come in on Saturday mornings. And while we train the students, we work with the numeracy and the literacy. We also pull the parent. And we have parents who have done well with their children. They have good examples. And they train the current parents. They sit down, they share best practices and things like that. Because we think that when they come to school in the days, and we, the teachers, educators are there, and we are doing our best because we see that this child has potential.
Yes.
But when the child goes back home and goes into a toxic environment, the child lapses. And so we try at NEET to ensure that the parents understand why the home environment must be a good one.
All right, well, Jean and Jessica, thank you so much for this morning. We learned quite a bit. We have one last question on this panel.
There's another.
Go ahead.
Hi. Can you explain the process of how you contact the ministry to set up donations for a school?
Okay, I cannot say that offhand, but I could direct you to the Ministry of Education website. I can definitely take you through that process.
They have a system in place, so just call.
You would contact definitely the National Education Trust. There is a link there and it shows you the form of how to do it and the contact information. Granted, it's Jamaica, so you may have to call more than once.
And because we're set up in regions.
But hold firm, all right? I'll have no problem in showing you.
One last one. Let's go. Mark.
Good morning, everyone. Good morning, Miss Davidson, Miss Brown. I just have two questions. from the outside looking in, it seems to be that the problem in our students lies between 15, 16, and 17. And I was wondering if it's really the end result of the youths that after school, there's not many space to be filled. And what I'm thinking is that all the good students we have made here in Jamaica, thanks to you teachers, who have been very diligent to the utmost of the greatest, which is what I learned of, is that we're sending all our students away to build other nations. And we're not focused here that when our students are educated by the educators, Jamaica is not getting 100% of that. So what I'm here to ask is the man in high school, being that you're in the man in high school, I'm a returning resident that's looking to help my country put my shoes in the foot and say, I'm coming home to help. Mm-hmm. I'm in the architecture practice for over 20 years, and being the change of atmosphere and climate worldwide, there's a new product in the world that's called SRC panel, which is very stronger than cinder block and steel put together. It's a system, and I'm thinking of coming home and using this system in my work area, which is building affordable homes. However, I do not think that I should go out of Jamaica to seek people to put the system together. Mm-hmm. So within the technical arena of high school, where it's a STEM program, this product is a hands-on product that I think not everybody can move and go to college, not everybody can leave the country. But just after that high school coming out, we're trying to train these high school students that we think are very knowledgeable to get into the field and help us with the system, because it's not cinder block where the house is built and you chip away to put a plug. It's more advanced and what the world is looking on based on a changing climatic atmosphere. There's more wind, there's more rain, and I truly want to know if Mannings would be a part of assisting with maybe 2 or 3 students that would be able to assist in the field, where we can train these students to now use this system away from the block and steel. It's something new, it's modern, and so that they have somewhere to go.
So it's like an internship program. How does a company set up that with a school?
Right now, we're ready. I can commit 3 names to you.
Right.
No. So, what is your name, sir?
My name is Mark McCarthy.
All right, Martin.
So I'm headstrong in MD, which is a design-build business, where I'm planning to design and build affordable homes for our nation.
So he can connect with the school and, for example, that's like setting up an internship
What
program.
you are talking about would be for them to get that necessary training. Mm-hmm. So now we have the TVET system, which is practical and hands-on. And Manning School has that program there for a cohort of, right now, that classroom is 45 students, with 35 of them being young men. And then you have the technical schools. So there is a partnership that can be had with HEART, and there's a partnership that can be had with TVET in terms of the structure that you're talking about, the learning, the learning part of it, and for students to do that hands-on training. We have the students, we have the program. It's for us now to set up the partnership and say, what do we bring to the table and what do you bring to the table to have that come to fruition?
And it's a start.
Oh, yes. Definitely. And we can talk.
Art is exactly
And
where
it's not only for boys.
No, I know. We have our girls in the program. I was just saying. I'm so sorry. I said right now we have our young ladies in that same class. We refer to it as a technical class, where they do those hands-on things, where there's auto mechanics, there is EET. Those students are there, and not only Manning School, but I'm pushing my school first.
Definitely.
But it's not only Manning School, you have Godfrey Stewart, you have Frome, you have so many other schools, and you have so many other programs that this would be a wonderful fit.
Yeah.
All right.
That's all, teachers.
Okay.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Thank you.
All right, everyone. We've come to the end of our first panel discussion as we were looking at the education sector in 2022 and how, well, of course, there's new ways to go beyond for sure, but just a real talk as to, you know, what is happening and how everybody has a part to play in our children, in the nation's youth going forward. So to Jean Brown as well as Jessica Davidson, thank you so much for joining us.
Most welcome. Thank you.
You just watched a clip from Throp-X 2022. I really hope you enjoyed it. If you want to see more, click right here. Or right here.